let's look at how to read a crosstab. So again, we have our columns and then our rows. Let's look at this first row. It's total. This is our total study sample. Now, we did the 6-month study sample. So our total sample size is going to be is actually precisely 12,263 people. The number of people in this study who drink Monster Energy is 543. That's this first variable right here. This is sample, this top one. 474 people drank any Red Bull. 159 drank sugar-free. 359 drank Red Bull regular. This next variable here is what's called the projected population. Because Simmons used a probability sample, that these 12,000 people represent the entire adult population of the United States. And what they're able to do is they are able to weight what these 12,000 people equal in the United States population in fall of 2017. So these 12,000 people represent, so what you do is you add 3 zeros here, 243, 296, 000. These 12,000 people represent 243,296,000 US adults. That's the US adult population roughly in fall of 2017. This data is all matched back to the US Census to make sure that these samples are, the projections are reliable. Now, if we were to look over one, I'll pause. This 543 person sample represents how many Monster Energy drinkers. If you said 13,777,000, you're correct. There are 10 million Red Bull drinkers. There are 3.5 million sugar-free drinkers, and so on. Some of these other rows, this vertical and horizontal percent, are going to make more sense when we get down into some of these others. So this first row is always the total study, not cross-tabbed by any of these other variables. So if we were to go down to, for example, how many females in the study drink Red Bull. That's 194 females in this full panel 6-month study that drink, any Monster Energy. That equates to 4.1 million US female adults. This is where it gets interesting. This variable here, the vertical percent, you read it down and over. Monster Energy drinkers, 30% of Monster Energy drinkers are female. 30% down and over. Among Monster Energy drinkers, 30% are female. Among Red Bull sugar-free drinkers, 39% are female. Now, if we're paying attention to the data here, we can see that Red Bull sugar-free has a full almost 10% more female drinkers than Monster Energy. Probably not a huge surprise. I'm sorry, that's regular. That's sugar-free or regular. This is sugar-free. 45.9% of sugar-free drinkers are female. That's an almost 16% difference between the Red Bull sugar-free drinkers and the Monster Energy drinkers. That shouldn't be a huge surprise that more females drink sugar-free energy drinks. The horizontal row, let's look at it. The horizontal row we read this way. Among females, 3.3% of females drink Monster Energy. This also, let's look at it this way. Of the total, 5.7% of all American adults, because that's the study base here, 5.7% of all American adults drink Monster Energy. That's a pretty good proxy for market penetration. That Monster Energy has a 6% penetration in the market among energy drinks. Red Bull has actually a lower market penetration. That might be a surprise to some of you, at least it is to me, because I think Red Bull has a stronger brand perception in my mind, but it has more than a full point lower household penetration. If you look here, Red Bull Regular has a much larger share of the market than Red Bull Sugar Free. That's probably not a big surprise. So let's read these across. Let's try another. If I was to ask what percent of Red Bull sugar-free drinkers, sorry, let me get this over here. What percent of Red Bull sugar-free drinkers are female? We know it's 45.9%. What percent of females drink Red Bull sugar-free? Well, that's 1.2%. It's a much smaller penetration of all females, only 1.2%. But if you look at the math, that's still 1.5 million females, 1.563, 1,563,000 females. Granted, it's a small percent. It's a lot of people when you're spending $3 to $6 per beverage a couple times a year. So you can see that adds up pretty quickly. Something I want to point out here is we see some of these asterisks. So one asterisk means that it's a sample size, it's right here, from 31 to 60. That means it may be unstable, right? So this is a sample size of 53. The problem is that the base in the study, because we used the 6 month, the base size of this total 159, there's not enough people to reliably cut it down to say, are there more 18 to 24-year-olds, or what is the proportion of 18 to 24-year-olds who drink sugar-free Red Bull because the sample is so small to begin with? So one thing that we might want to do is we might want to change our study to the 12-month study, rerun it over here, and what that's going to do is it's going to double our sample size. Now we've got 24,000 people in the study. Well, let's see what happens when we try to look at Red Bull sugar-free among 25 to 34-year-olds. Well, now we've got 98 people in our study, or maybe it was here, we've got 50 or whatever it was. So among Red Bull, all Red Bull drinkers, what percent of them are 18 to 24? It would be 21%. Among 18 to 24-year-olds, what percent of them drink Red Bull regular? Well, now we're up to 10%. So what we can start seeing is as age goes up, the number of people starts to decline after about 44. So 55-year-olds, 45-year-olds, 55-year-olds, not big into it. Now, how can we tell? Another thing we can look at is index. So index is really the key to unlocking Simmons data. And so you'll see here, let's look at male, female. So this is Monster Energy. You'll see here, and this is an index of 100. An index of 100, when you're looking at a crosstab, means average. Well, of course, the total audience would be, as defined, an average drinker. If you were to look at males, an index of 148 means, so you take it, anything above 100 is more likely, and anything below 100 is less likely. The way you would read this is that men are 48% more likely to drink Monster Energy shots or Monster Energy drinks. The difference between 148 and 100 is 48. Conversely, women are 45% less likely. How did I get to 45? 100 minus 55 equals 45. So women are 45% less likely than the average American adult. So the index is always compared to the base, which in this instance is the total adult population. Women are 45% less likely than the average American to drink Monster Energy. If you look across the board here, what you'll see is this index for sugar-free gets a lot higher. So you could almost say here that the average American woman drinks, or that women drink Red Bull sugar-free about the average amount as the average American woman, or as the average American. Said also that women drink more sugar-free Red Bull. So this is actually, women drink sugar-free Red Bull 9% less than 9% less likely than the average American to drink sugar-free. The rule of thumb is this. Matter of fact, I'll write it in here. Oh yeah, I got it right here. 100 is the average compared to the base. 90 to 100 is directional. So 10% less likely or 10% more likely is not statistically significant, but it's something that you might want to pay attention to. Anything less than 80 or more than 120 is likely significant. It's more than just chance that this would happen. So the fact that far fewer women drink energy drinks is beyond just chance, that there is a strong correlation between gender, an inverse correlation between female gender and consumption of energy drinks. Let's look at some of these health attitudes. I consider myself to be very healthy. Okay, in general, energy drink. So first of all, what percent of the population consider themselves to be very healthy? Surprising. Only 40% consider their diet to be very healthy. Only 9% of the population is vegetarian. We know that from some of our previous research. 42% make sure they exercise regularly. This is why we have some crises in our country. These numbers decrease precipitously for energy drink consumption. Monster Energy drink, people who drink Monster Energy are 23% less likely than the average person to make sure that they exercise regularly. Now, what's interesting is if you look at sugar-free, one of the things is you see an uptick in exercise behavior. Let's look at Supercross. So here's what happens. Supercross as a category is very small. It has only 2.2% of the population is into any sort of Supercross, right? Among the total audience, 2% watches Supercross. If we were to read across these rows, though, because Monster Energy has such a large, almost 600 people drink Monster in this study. Actually, what was it? 1,000 people in this study drink Monster Energy. There was enough people that you could cut it by Supercross fans. What we see here is that they are 196% more likely that Monster Energy drinkers are 196% more likely to watch Supercross or enjoy Supercross than the average adult American. If you look here, Red Bull sugar-free, it's off the charts, but the problem is the sample size is only 21. So this might be due to chance. All right, I feel like I have said enough. Good luck on your scavenger hunt, and I will see you in class.